Good evening, class. My name is Ramakrishna. I'll be taking units 3 and 4 in specialized reporting today. Give me a second, I'll be sharing screen. Where is the screen share option? Yesterday, I gave uh, a broad overview of what specialized reporting is, where we discussed what all genres are there in specialized reporting. We started off by discussing sports journalism and then lifestyle or metro journalism and business journalism, science journalism, and so on. Okay, today we'll look a little more deeply into business journalism. Uh, this corresponds to units 3 and 4 in the book. Just for reference, I've opened the chapters. One second. Units 2. Units 3 and 4. Okay, here we go. Block 2, business journalism. We have two, business in India and business writing. So we'll cover these two units today. Just to give an overview of what business journalism is about. It's a very important specialization within the journalism profession. Business journalism is the most thriving area of specialization in India uh, because there are six independent publications, six business newspapers, six standalone newspapers dedicated to covering business, economy, finance, and so on. Okay, there are several TV channels as well. No other specialization like sports or lifestyle or science or none of these other areas have such dedicated publications, standalone publications. So business is a very important area of specialization. So how did business journalism begin? It started off in the United States of America with a newspaper called Wall Street Journal. This Wall Street Journal was founded in the late 19th century, that is late 1800s. Okay, that was the period of late industrialization, when late period of industrialization, the Western industrialization. That is when the Wall Street Journal started as a platform or a forum for the business community in the United States. Okay, and then around the same time, almost like a peer for the Wall Street Journal is the UK-based Financial Times. This is a very reputed newspaper, almost considered a standard bearer in business journalism. This also started off uh, as a platform to serve the information needs of business and investment community. At that time, Britain was ruling much of the world, okay, because it was a colonial power, and there are, that colonialism had a layer of had a lot to do with business and commerce and mainly economic interests. So Financial Times rode on that wave. Okay, so that's how business journalism started in the US and UK in late 19th century. Now, when did it start in India? The first newspaper in India is the Economic Times. It is published by the Times of India Group, which is the Bennett Coleman and Company Limited. It started in 1961. Why 1961? Do we have anything else that has happened in that year? Before we talk about that, okay, first business newspaper to come from India was the Economic Times. Okay, what about the second? Second was the Financial Express. Okay, it was published by the Indian Express Group. Okay, coincidentally, this second newspaper, the Financial Express, also started in 1961. So, two business newspapers from published from the stables of two mainstream newspapers were both started in 1961. Why? Is there anything in that year that led to the you know founding of these two business newspapers? It's it's hard to prove this link, but the 1961 was the starting period of third 5-year plan, which is which focused on industrial development. The first two were focused on agricultural development. The second one, the sort of the plan that began in 1961 was focused on industrial development of India. So that was probably uh, the policy trigger that led to the formation of two business newspapers in that particular year. So that's how the Economic Times and Financial Express started in 1961. The third dedicated specialized business newspaper was the Business Standard. It was originally started by the Telegraph Group, which is published from Kolkata, and this was in the year 1975. This business standard was later sold off, okay, to uh, a group partly owned by Kotak Mahindra Bank and the TN9, well-known business journalist TN9. Okay, they jointly own this newspaper. So that's how the first three newspapers started. We can consider them, although Business Standard started some 14 years after the first two, we can consider them as belonging to more or less the same generation. Okay. What about the later publications? The next publication to come into being was Business Line, which is from the Hindu group. Okay, and this was in the year 1994. So there's a big shift between the first generation, between the time or the setting in which the first generation of business newspapers were started and the setting or the climate in which this second generation of newspapers started. Okay, that shift in climate had a lot to do with the liberalization policy of 1991. What do we mean by this liberalization policy of 1991? Participating in the Indian, in various economic activities was opened up to private sector, private parties. Until then, government had a lot of control over much of the economy. In almost every sector, government had control. Okay, so this 1991 reform package let go of some of that control, and so this liberalization opened up various sectors to private participation. Okay, so that is the setting or the climate in which business line formed. And then the next publication to come into being is Mint. It is from the Hindustan Times Group. This publication started in the year 2007. Now, the Indian economy, the economic climate, the economic setting, the conditions in the country are drastically, totally different from the first, the first two, uh, first batch which started in 1961 and the second in 99, around 1991 or 1994. Okay, so Indian economy was a completely different entity by the time Mint was formed in 2007. Okay, it has become a big exporter of software services, pharmaceuticals, and so on. It has become an important player in the world economy. And um, so Mint. So that's about Mint. Then finally we have Financial Chronicle. It is published by the Deccan Chronicle Group. It started in the year 2008. So that's about history of business journalism in India and business journalism newspapers. What about now? We will come to business writing sources and style. Okay? The assumption among general public is that business news stories tend to be a lot about numbers and figures and money and so on, right? To some extent, that is true. But when we write a business story, it's also very important, almost as important as it is in any general news. Okay, to not just say number and not just to report number by itself, but to make sense of it. What do those numbers mean? In business journalism, numbers are important, of course, but it's also, or in fact, it's more important to interpret those numbers, to make sense of those numbers, to provide context and to explain the significance of those numbers. Okay, so that's an important point to remember. For example, mm, let's say some bank is reporting its annual profit and loss accounts. Okay, that bank made so much. Let's say some certain, let's say 1,500 crore of net profit during that period. Okay, in a general newspaper, this wouldn't be news unless it's a very big, significant, systemically important. Unless it's a very major institution, very major bank, this profit earned by a bank in a particular year is not really news for a general newspaper. Whereas for a business newspaper, there are dedicated sections within a newspaper. For example, within a business newspaper, there is a section for banking and finance. Okay, that section covers this banking industry, financial industry, insurance industry very deeply, very closely. Okay, first, so for that section, this will be important news. Although for general readers, it may not make immediate sense. Okay, so in that sense, business journalism is different from general, the mainstream journalism. Second, interpreting numbers. Often just reporting that so and so bank has earned, let's say, 1,500 crore of profit in a particular year will not tell us much. Is it a good performance by the bank or not so good? Uh, how does it relate to the previous track record of the bank, and how does it relate to its peers, its its competitors in the industry? Okay, all of these angles need to be covered in business journalism. For example, let's say this 15 to in the current year, that bank has earned 1,500 crore, and if it had earned only 1,200 crore in the last year, then we can say that it reported certain 3 divided by 15, 30% growth. Okay, we can say that the bank has reported 30% increase in net profit in the current year. That will make more sense. Instead of just reporting 1,500 crore net profit for the year, if we say the bank has earned 30% more compared to last year, then it, it says something. Okay. So when net profit increases this year compared to last year, or in the current quarter compared to the same quarter of last year, then we say that it is growth. What do we say if the net profit in this quarter is less than the net profit the bank had earned in the same quarter of last year? I mean, if the net profit decreases over the year, what do we say? If it increases, we say it's growth. If it decreases, we say it's the net profit declined. Okay. or net profit slowed. For example, we can say that so and so bank, uh, the net profit of so and so bank has slowed to this much percentage growth and so on. Okay. So that's about how to write business stories. All the numbers are important. Interpreting the numbers is even more important. Okay. When we report, when we report mm, the profit and loss accounts of corporate entities or banks, we need to compare the figure, the profit figure of current quarter or current year with the same quarter of last year. Okay, then we can call it annual growth or annual. Um, we call it annual growth. Okay, so these are the some of the things about how to write business stories. What about sources of information? Where do we get information for business news? The most important source of corporate developments is the stock market, especially for listed companies. Listed companies have to mandatorily publish any developments, any corporate developments to the, they need to report to the stock markets first. So on the stock market website, there's a corporate announcements section. You need to, business reporters keep track of that corporate announcement section through the day until the market closes. Okay. So any company which is located in your area, most companies are registered in Mumbai, but if any company has operations in your area, if for example in Telangana state or wherever you are, okay, so you need to make a list of companies from your area and keep track of those companies on the market in the corporate announcement section of this BSE or NSE website. So that is one of the most important source of information. And then that is for corporate developments. Sometimes companies themselves announce their plans through it is a minor they'll announce it through a press release. Or if it's a major call a press conference and invite reporters. You need to go prepared with questions. Okay, you need to performance has been. What are the potential issues?